Thank you very much, Raymond. Reclaiming Enlightenment, just to clarify for people, is a small group of us in Belfast, growing numbers. We've had a number of remarkable events. We want to start to remember 200 years ago when Belfast was considered the Athens of the North. We wouldn't set up a slaving company, for example. And remember that period in our kind of history instead of 300 years ago and the period that's celebrated by the kind of on the 12th of July. So that's just an aside, not particularly relevant. I want to thank IPSC for organising this absolutely marvellous event. There's a wonderful presence of solidarity activists in the hall, and particularly of Palestinian activists whom we have all heard about and some of us have met, and some of them have been to Belfast as well. It's on the day, the anniversary of the execution of James Connolly, one of my heroes. I was reflecting on the fact that we have so many Palestinians here, and I recalled a quotation by Connolly: "None so fit to break the chains as those who wear them." And it's therefore very appropriate that we... I think a wonderful intervention by the IPSC and supported by TUFP to pull this all together. Connolly, by the way, was talking about women in society and how women, he wasn't particularly talking about Ireland being liberated, but the point is still very valid. We decided to try to mobilise within the trade union movement for Palestinian Solidarity on the basis of a 2005 motion passed by Congress. Most people here will be aware that we only have one trade union congress in Ireland. So we have a united trade union movement, and it covers both constituencies. It passed a 2005 motion to campaign in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and that's why we have that on all our kind of letter headings on our logo. So we got together, we approached the Irish Congress of Trade Unions, and they agreed to set up Trade Union Friends of Palestine. And since that time, we looked for a focus, and we decided to respond to the call of the 2005 Palestinian Civil Society Campaign, calling for BDS. And we tried, our focus then was to work within the Irish trade union movement to make that happen. And another part of our kind of orientation, and this is something that we've stuck at consistently, we recognise that we have to make a distinction between humanitarian mobilisation, humanitarian support, trying to assist people who are in need, who need donations, who need kind of immediate help, and actually campaigning to confront the causes of their suffering and the causes of the occupation and the causes of the devastation that they're experiencing. And it is still a big, massive issue for us, because a lot of the trade unions that we approach say that we do give to Palestine. They talk about we give to Palestine. But we're saying, yes, but we also need to do something else, and we talk about BDS. So it's not a case of either or, it's a case of both and. If people are in a position of suffering, we have to respond in some way and try to offer aid. But that is built into the Israeli strategy, and we know that. So we need to do something more, which is to address the root causes, to try to confront the Israeli apartheid regime. And that's why the BDS movement is so important to us. So we have done a lot of things to try to get organised. We've had 11 years of this now, almost 12 years. You see some of it outside on the stall. We've also promoted through ICTU and a policy at ICTU to help to get TUFP established in the south. We have made good links with the BNC and with the BDS movement in Europe. And we have put a lot of effort and time into trying to link in to the affiliate unions of the Irish Congress to have meetings, fringe meetings, invite speakers over. So we've had like Omar over, we've had Rafik Sayada over, we've had a number of the Palestinian members of the BDS movement over. We should have had Jamal over, but unfortunately, due to family circumstances, Jamal wasn't able to make it, So we've been very active on a lot of fronts, including changing policy. One of the first things that we did was that we introduced through through some of the unions and the trades councils that support us and where we have active members, we brought forward motions, and starting off in 2007 with the BDS motion. So I think the Irish Congress was the first Congress in the Western world to pass a BDS motion. A number of other motions. And in many ways, I have to be honest, I'm very kind of, okay, I keep saying this, but what have we done with it, with the motion? But it still is there. We still have that motion. We have it in paper. It was historical. It still stands as a commitment of the Irish trade union movement. And that in itself is an abiding victory for us. So what can we report? Kind of limited progress to some degree on active BDS interventions. There has been a lot of activity, though, in terms of promoting BDS and why we do BDS. We have to recognise the impediments that there are, including the mythology of the peace process, and not wanting to interrupt the boat, EU influences, and our own economic crisis, which occurred around the time, just after we passed the BDS motion. The trade union movement here, and all of Irish society was hit by the economic crisis. And another issue was that we weren't getting direct calls here from the Palestinian trade union movement. And partly that's because we hadn't made the links. And a fundamental way in which we have to approach this is to think about, okay, I know this, we aren't alone in this. This is typical internationally in terms of trade unions passing motions. You can change a policy, but changing the culture is what really takes the work and what really needs to happen before we can deliver and have meaningful action. But there has been a lot of meaningful, effective solidarity action. We have achieved a lot. ICTU, and Omar will be very aware of this, because a number of the letters from the Irish Congress of Trade Unions to the Irish government, and the Irish government responded to it, was in defence of Omar, was in defence of the right to BDS. There are a number of other kind of statements and reports from the Irish government responding to letters and requests from the Irish Congress in terms of what was happening in Palestine. We had a 2010 conference. Micheál Martin was Foreign Minister at the time. We had worked up from the north, and we had worked up a strategy for BDS, and it led to this conference in Dublin Castle in 2010, a BDS conference, how to implement our BDS policy. And it was opened by Micheál Martin, actually, though he said himself he didn't support boycott. But that was how, I suppose it was coming out of social partnership at a time which helped, but that was very, very meaningful for us. I know that David Joyce from the Irish Congress has, in a very courageous way, stood up at the ILO in front of the trade unions across the world and spoken about the plight of Palestinian workers. And that was a very courageous thing for him to do, and it caused a lot of upset. One of the things that we have been trying to tackle from 2013, when we brought Fagforbundet, the big Norwegian public sector union, over, and Norwegian People's Aid, was to look at public sector procurement. Because the unions can be involved in negotiating with management and commissioning about public sector procurement. Why are we procuring from G4S? If you go any of the government buildings, like particularly in the judiciary and so on, and court, it's all G4S. I don't know if that's the case down here as well. And the biggest employer in the north, the National Health Service, they're all using Hewlett-Packard technology, Hewlett-Packard printers and Hewlett-Packard computers. That should be an easy target for us in terms of public sector procurement. But it does take a long time. Part of our difficulty was that they were changing the kind of guidelines on public sector procurement. And we didn't want to come in and say at the negotiating table, we do not want to purchase from Hewlett-Packard. What we wanted to do was to get social responsibility and ethical clauses from the UN guidance on businesses and human rights, get that into the guidance on procurement. And now we don't have a government, and we haven't had a government for over a year. But it's the same thing down here. It's public sector. Okay, I've got 5 minutes, I think. Public sector procurement is something that we have been working and still working at it. We have been very responsive to the atrocities in Gaza and the trade union movement, TFP, have led the mobilization of broader civil society kind of protests against what has been happening in Gaza. Derry City, our activists in Derry City have helped to promote the BDS motion. So I don't know, I think it might be one of the only cities now, certainly in Ireland and Britain, that has a BDS motion. Our Unison, my own union, Unison. Sorry, what was that? Dublin. Oh, mustn't forget Dublin. Sligo, Galway. Okay, my own union, Unison, which is a UK-based union of 1.3 million members, is now boycotting Hewlett-Packard. The National Executive of Unison brought forward a motion a couple of years ago to reopen relations with Histadrut because a policy motion had been passed to boycott Histadrut. So the National Executive of Unison, no doubt influenced by the TUC, wanted to bring forward a motion to reopen relations with the Israeli trade union movement. And our intervention was very, very pivotal then. We produced a pamphlet, which is out there on our stall, about the history of Histadrut as a sectarian, oppressive trade union. It actually controlled 25% of the Israeli economy. It produced weapons that it sent to apartheid South Africa. And the intervention from our members and from other kind of members in Britain, we brought down that kind of motion. And so Unison still refuses to have anything to do with Histadrut. I want to run on, just to say that we're starting to become more mainstream. And one of the things that is happening with us is that when we asked ICTU, for example, to invite Omar Barghouti to our Congress, we only have ICTU Congress every 2 years. We had him along, not just for a fringe meeting, but as a guest speaker. And as a guest speaker, I mean, he also met with the President of Ireland. And that photograph there, that's Uber Ballesteros, a jailed Colombian trade union leader who was freed partly because of ICTU interventions. And we had a joint meeting, public meeting with both of them. And that's meeting the President. The trade union ambassadors to Palestine, I might get a chance tomorrow to talk a bit more about this because I'm going to rush on. But one of the things that has really helped to change the culture, I talked about the policy, we have it, but we do need to change the culture as well. One of the things that has really, really helped is bringing people actually out to the occupied territories. We had a delegation out in 2007, which was very, very powerful. But since that time, we haven't gone out. And we were aware of not wanting to engage in occupation tourism. But due to kind of influence from our Norwegian colleagues, from Fagforbundet, and what they wrote about the ambassadors concept, and workmates, the trade union section of Palestinian Committee in Norway, we decided to send out delegations again. So we had one in 2016, we had 2 last year, and you can see the reports outside. There's also a report outside on the whole concept of ambassadors, a 4-page leaflet about what we do, how we break it up, the types of meetings that we have. And any trade unionist here who wants to get involved in trade union solidarity, who wants to get involved in their union and bring this forth, come out and join our delegations, and we'll be very, very glad to have you. Okay, I'm going to run on to, that picture was very important for me. That's in one of the delegations. I love that picture because I loved those young people when we met them at the Arafat Memorial, because you can see from them how welcoming they were, how pleased they were to meet us, but they had tremendous energy. I mean, we were tired going around and so on, but when we met those young people and they were inspired and they wanted to talk to us and what were we doing there, and the sense of Palestinian samud, of steadfastness, of energy, of not giving up, that meeting those girls, because they are girls, was really, really powerful for us. And that's some of the delegation, some of the people whom we have met. That's our Dorothy, our teacher from INTO, and following this, Dorothy and some of our other colleagues from the Irish National Teachers Organisation, they brought forward a motion a couple of weeks ago to the INTO Congress, meeting the biggest teaching union in Ireland, It was a wonderful motion. The INT would never have gone before, tackled the issue of Palestine, considered a motion on Palestine, but because of the work of the ambassadors, because they had been out there with us, it built up a momentum and an energy and a passion that really penetrated through the union. So the union, from the top to the bottom now, is in support of this INTO motion that was passed, and they will implement it. They have just a couple of days ago, they agreed to contribute £1,000 or €1,000 to our European project. And I think that is worthy. And by the way, talking about ambassadors, I want to thank Elaine Daly again. I know people are mentioning it, but Elaine Daly has been so helpful and giving advice and so on how we go about our delegations. Thank you, Elaine. And I felt so sorry for Elaine because she didn't get into to Palestine and to go to Bethlehem last year to receive her award because of the war. I don't know if everybody here knows this, but because of the tremendous work that Elaine has done, the city of Bethlehem awarded her a Bethlehem passport in honour of her achievement. You will recognise the gentleman on the right of that photograph, and that because he sits on the executive of the New Unions. And that's Omar meeting the Mayor of Derry and thanking him for the BDS motion. I just want to run on. I'll mention the European Trade Union Initiative tomorrow because I'm back on tomorrow. It's a really important development. Now, our solidarity with the Great March of Return. There's something tremendously inspiring about the oppressed people of Gaza living in these inhuman conditions, and they are marching not just to end the siege, but they're marching, they call it the Great March of Return. They want to return to their land. So there's something tremendously positive and hopeful about that, and I think it inspires so many people across the world, and I was very glad to hear Haneen talk about it in her presentation today. And I would love if there was a message from this gathering, from all the Irish people here and from our international guests as well, a message from this gathering here to the people in Gaza. Maybe we could do it through Abdul Rahman, the BDS representative in Gaza, that we support and applaud what they are doing. We have been, since that, and just 1 minute now, Raymond, the day after the first march, we organised a rally in support in Belfast, outside Belfast City Hall. We have been continuing an action every Saturday since that time. So yes, today would have been the 7th action. Last week was May Day, so we merged it with May Day, and we were given, Ireland has the biggest May Day demonstration, workers' demonstration in Ireland, and we were given the platform, and our chairperson, Patricia McKeown, spoke for about 10 minutes solely about Gaza and the attack on the people of Gaza and the need for the UN to respond. That's also outside the City Hall. That's one of our kind of demonstrations. And that's a sad day from the IPSC in Belfast. And that, I'm just going to end with this, is a lovely kind of photograph. It's sent to us, and Fatine has facilitated this as well, from the people of Gaza. Thank you, Belfast. From Gaza with love, thank you, Belfast, united for justice and freedom. And that's a wonderful connection that we have between the people of Gaza. I know I've run over time, but I would encourage people to read the TUFP material on the stall and to sign up. If you're a trade unionist, sign up and get involved with TUFP in the south or TUFP in the north. Thank you very much indeed.